when we look at this game, I think one of the biggest problems for me was our defensive line, who's gotten pressure all year, is now going to go up in against an offensive line. The Seattle Seahawks, they've got injuries on both ends. It's like, let's go. And
Mhm.
I have not seen Aiden Hutchinson and these guys just get stonewalled like we did today. And then when they did get through, it seemed like Geno easily moved by us. What do you think about our? We'll get to the defense in general, but the
Sure.
defensive line seemed to have a problem. What were your thoughts on that?
I don't understand it. They had two tackles out. They had two backup tackles. We had a backup tackle, and our offensive line held up pretty well, but that's one.
Yeah.
Like, that's one tackle. And this is going to have to be, well, I'm going to talk about Aiden in a second with this, but this is where I'm just kind of like, okay, the defensive line, somebody not named Aiden Hutchinson is going to have to get pressure
Yep.
because they just chipped him all game, just like the Chiefs did all game. They see film, they got tape, right? Like, they know what's going on. That's what the Chiefs did. They chipped Aiden Hutchinson on every single play. And Aiden Hutchinson's not good enough to beat that chip yet. He's not that
No.
level. So who is, right? And so, well, some are, but nobody else could get anything. So he's just sitting there and not. I think that's part of it. I got more thoughts on this, but what did you think about our D line's just honestly straight lack of pressure?
Yeah, I just thought at some point that's going to pick up, and that
Yeah,
is
it's
the
got to, right?
absolute game in a lot of ways. I mean, offensive line, we talk about that at nauseum, but at some point it's
Mm-hmm.
got to pick up. Then I was like, okay, clearly we're not getting pressure, and we just kept with this rush four thing. And I love rushing four when you can get, and you don't have to get sacks, but you got to move him off the spot. And Hutchinson was doing that with Patrick Mahomes. So my biggest issue is not that, okay, we're not getting pressure. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. These guys, we I would have loved to see more blitzes and more.
Okay.
I just something. Didn't it look like it? We just showed our hands so much. It's like we're rushing four and we're in zone here and third. I don't know. It just felt very like disguised. I need something here because it started to get to a bleed out situation where it's like, well, I don't know what the answer is. So would you like to see more blitzes, or what more thoughts do you have on that?
Yeah, it started to feel very what's the word I want to use? I don't want to say this out loud. It kind of felt like a Patricia defense.
Mm,
It felt like we refused to make the adjustments needed in order to stop them. In fact, what I started getting frustrated about is, so they play actioned all game. Agreed? Like,
yeah. Oh,
how I don't know how many times you can play action, but it wasn't until the fourth quarter that the linebackers started biting on it. Like,
hmm.
they've been doing it all game. Why are you biting on it now? It's just because it's pressure, it's crunch time, and they're just going to freak out a little bit. So here's the way I'm looking at it. If our linebackers are going to bite on the play action anyway, you might as well blitz one,
That's
right?
right.
And but nobody was getting home. If we blitz, if we didn't, you would honestly think their two backup tackles were all pro tackles, like
Oh,
bookends, never seen any. I mean, like, there was no pressure. And Gino, sure, he showed great pocket awareness. He moved around well. He got out. And they designed plays to be quick, but I don't even know if they had to because their line held up so well all day. I was just amazed by this. Evan Brown's in there hurt. And we can't, like, Aleem McNeil has transformed his body.
yep.
He can't get pressure at all.
Cannot get and you're right. And so for them to play, I think it's this whole Seattle thing. I mean, it's terrible. I can't even watch it because it's play action, and
Mm-hmm.
then he lobs the ball up to a point of which you're like, oh, what's going to happen here? It's a pick six, and the guy's wide open.
Wide open.
And so the way that it was lobbed to him, you're like, all right, he's wide open. I get it, but let's come up and get him. Nobody's around. And this is what we have not seen from this Lions defense in the last 10 games, 10, 11
Thank
games.
you. We saw it at the beginning of the year last
Yeah.
year,
Against
but we haven't seen it in the last 11 games.
no. And then so you combine it, you combine the Seattle methodical. You just want to die. But you said it early on.
Mm-hmm.
They get 2 extra yards. They get, instead of getting 4, they get 6. And they
Yes.
just do all this. And then, I mean, how crazy was it though, too, on top of all that, to see the pick six from Goff, like you're just like, So now you're down. So, the whole thing is just hard to watch, but I think you nailed it. The defensive line, at some point, you're not getting it. We're biting on the fakes anyway. Let's bring something. Let's switch it up. I don't care what we do. And I love, I don't, where's that like double A gap look, right? Something different once it was clear that we just can't stop these guys, man.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Not only can we not stop them, I can wait, but do you know what these PFF scores are going to be for our defensive line? It's going to be brutal. Like nobody was getting pressure. And then when we did, even if we did blitz, like it did not look good. The blitzing did not look good.
No.
At all. And so, yeah, we have the D line's lack of pressure, which I know some of that played into the struggles in the secondary. Like, I get that. But you know what else played into the struggles in the secondary? Jerry Jacobs. My goodness, was that bad?
Had a couple
Here's this guy who's, he's got that dog in him, right? And he looked tentative. He looked scared. There were times where he was right there and he's just jogging. Like, I didn't understand what was going on. And it's because he got beat so bad on double moves earlier. I think he was just hanging back. Like, I don't want to get beat on the double move. So I'm just going to get beat on a normal route. It was really, really hard to watch.
Yes, it was
really hard.
Yes. How many times can Tyler Lockett just run? It's like, oh man, what kind of move was that? Or what kind of play scheme did they do? And it's like, oh no, he just ran 10 yards and then turned around and he was wide open. And you're just like, I can't watch this. And so, yes, the Jerry Jacobs stuff was really interesting. And you just look at the Seattle team. I think it was a reality check. It obviously was a reality check for all of us, myself included, where I thought we are a physical team. Like if nothing else, we are physical. And I still think we are. But I think Seattle showed. I mean, you got DK Metcalf's just a man of man. I mean, you just see that guy. But
nuts.
But like Jerry Jacobs, we looked smaller because we are. Like even Charbonnet looks like he's like, how big is that running back? We look smaller, a tad slower, and a tad less strong. And it was interesting and it's disheartening to see because I did not expect that to come into Ford Field. I thought the crowd would be out of control. They were. And they still couldn't do it.
Let's turn the volume up on the broadcast, though, because like they're talking about how loud the crowd is. And I'm like, really? Because I can barely hear them.
Yeah.
And I have my volume up. I can hear the announcers just fine. And I understand they're probably behind a glass. But I'm just like, it's okay if you want to let us feel what's going on in that stadium. I'm okay with that.
I know. I would have liked that. Let's work on that. I got something else for you.
You got another something for us. Let's go.